crime, mafia, federal law enforcement, crime prevention, Las Vegas Mob Summit. This is William Steele. William Steele's True Crime and Steele Spotlight Television with my very, very special. Both of my co-hosts are joining us. The other one is out in surgery. Louie B, former legendary mafia detective in New York City. We'll let him elaborate a little bit more. And welcome. And Ignacio, my regular weekly co-host as well. Ignacio Esteban, retired ATF agent of almost 30 years, author, prolific author, probably one of the most published authors in the United States right now. Proud to have him as a co-host. Over 80 books, and you've only been retired about, what, 2 years?
I did it in less than 2 years, doing screenplays, writing articles, and I think I've done over 300 and counting these podcast, videocast shows. And have a family and busy and a lot going on. But, that's the life I lived as an agent. I just kept it up, man. You have 12, 14 hours. You have informants. They don't stop. They're calling you. The bad guys call you all the time. You're writing reports. You're under operations. You get called out. I just have to keep it up, and I just have all this time, and I just focused it because of the pandemic and everything else. I got into writing. I liked it. People like it. And then I love doing this, and I hooked up with you, right? What is it now, a year and a half? We're doing shows?
We've been doing shows for a year and a half.
We're hooked up with Louie. Louie's going to do doing shows with us now.
I'm happy with this.
This is fun. I really get a lot of enjoyment out of doing this. I've been doing this for.
I'm very shy and quiet. That's why this is like it's bringing it out in me.
Louie and I are doing Mafia Mondays. Now, Louie, tell this audience for today's show a little bit more about yourself and your background.
I'm a retired detective from the NYPD. I worked in the elite organized crime investigation division. Prior to that, I worked in a HIDA unit, high intensity drug trafficking unit in the NYPD, where I was in a complete undercover capacity buying Asian heroin as a wise guy's nephew. That was the role I played. And from there, I was put into another team doing Italian organized crime, which I wasn't happy about doing because of the fact that I grew up in and about organized crime as a kid. And I did an Italian bread case in an undercover capacity. And then eventually I got put into another team, which was a punishment, which wound up being a organized crime controlling the private sanitation industry. And it wound up being the largest organized crime case in the history of New York law enforcement.
Excellent.
That's Operation Wasteland.
Operation Wasteland, right.
Excellent.
So you brought down members of the Gambino and Genovese crime family.
That is correct. Altogether, we got 32 organized crime guys. The name of the case is Operation Wasteland. I consider myself an affiliate, so to speak, to organized crime. That's what somebody gave me that title. I'm not affiliated. I'm not a part of any organized crime family, but I rub shoulders with a lot of people growing up and so on and so forth.
You have a book coming out, which is behind you. And also, we know you just came back from Las Vegas Mob Summit. What's it called? The Mafia Museum, Mob Museum?
I was at the Mob Summit. And then from there, I went to the Mob Museum, which I am hoping to get my book and my story, Operation Wasteland in there.
Oh, great.
And you have a documentary out. Everybody check out the documentary. I'll try to put the trailer. We'll have the trailer up. It's already on some of my shows. Additionally, I want to point out we have a ton of photographs we're going to get to a little later in the show. But I want to make it clear to my audience that you guys don't mess around. Now, Louie went to Las Vegas. Really, he's all about crime prevention, exposing the goods, the bads, and the uglies about the work that he's done as an undercover mafia detective in New York. And he definitely lays it bare. He knows the good and the bad of that. But he went to Vegas strictly on business, as one of these images shows so clearly.
Oh, there we go.
So here's Louie.
What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right, Bill? Right, Louie?
Las Vegas office. So
I have no independent knowledge of anything.
What was that at? That Circus?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't counselor at this time. I don't recall.
I don't remember. It's all fog. Exactly.
I forgot
I don't know. I just don't know.
All right, Ignacio, you've got some big breaking news you want to talk about with politics a little bit. Then we're going to segue into some other.
We always have stuff. It never ends, especially with this election cycle 2024. Finally, they came up with agreement. The big debate Finally, people are curious. Can Biden really stand up to Trump in a debate? He can't even stand up on stage, right? Did you see what happened a few days ago with Obama for a fundraiser? He froze. He stood there. Obama had to grab his hand and take him off stage. It's getting to be a point with embarrassing. He cannot be the commander in chief. He's not fit. I think what he'd be good at is give him a nice little ice cream cone. He can lick his ice cream like he likes, put him in the beach in his beach house right there and look at the ocean, and that's the perfect place for him. But at the same time, we don't want Kamala either because she's also an ultimate word salad herself. And what's her excuse? She rambles and bambles and goes sideways and ups and downs. We have no idea what she's saying. This is probably the worst ticket we've ever seen. They make Jimmy Carter in a hospice is better shape than Joe Biden is right now. And that's saying something.
If you look at how Obama walked him off stage the other day, it was in reality, I'm not a Democrat. It was a very poignant moment, and that should have been the last we ever saw Joe Biden. They should have announced his resignation from the presidency an hour later and had him leave with grace, because that was a very graceful move. It really was. It was poignant, and he should be gone. However,
these days
you still have the country split between a phenomenal president and a guy who can't is proven to be corrupt and can't string together a sentence. So
that's why a lot of people think Obama. This is his third administration. He is third term. He's running the things behind it because obviously someone else is. If here Blinken, Obama, or that's definitely not Kamala is running the same because he goes to bed early. If you saw the GS summit, he was struggling in Italy with the heat. He couldn't make a lot of the events. He would go to bed early. He couldn't get up for the later stuff, and he would be sleeping. He was out. He missed a lot of the night stuff because it was just too old, too hot. And it was sad because he even copied Ronald Reagan's speech. They've showed it 40 years ago that he did a 40-year anniversary of D-Day. He did it 80 years later. He copies pretty much word for word what Reagan did. You compared it. You saw on Fox News. He's had a history of plagiarizing speeches before. He's done it before. He's done it now again. And it shows that his cognitive skills have completely gone away. He's deteriorated completely. And I think if Trump shows he's still winning, and it's hard for Trump people don't like to admit it, he's going to be a rout. I say election. It's going to be. I'm really curious to see how the debate goes for Biden. How much he freezes, stumbles, bumbles through it, and this is Trump's trying to pretty much put him to sleep and put him to bed. I think though, if he does really bad, Biden, maybe they will replace him in the convention. We'll see.
Louie, what do you think about this Biden-Trump matchup here?
Well, of course, I'm going to vote for Trump. Okay, yeah. I did a case for Trump back in 1989. It was a narcotics case in one of his hotels. He took care of me. I never met him, but he had his people take care of me because I had a successful case. He is a tough guy to deal with. He's a narcissist. He loves himself. He likes that power, but he's a way better president than this idiot that's in place now. What I don't like about him is if these people did to me what they're doing to him, the moment I got in, I would cut their heads off. I definitely change the FBI, change the Department of Justice, and go after these people with a revenge. But then again, that's just me.
Yeah. I mean, look at Fannie Willis, how shameful. And now this case has been pushed off by the Supreme Court in Georgia indefinitely because she lied. She lied about when this relationship started with Nathan Wade. She brought him in. The guy had no experience doing racketeering cases. This case should never have gone forward. I mean, what a multi-conspiracy with Giuliani and others involved there. And now it showed that she lied about everything. She was in cahoots with, and she benefited because they paid him about $600,000, and they took some lavish trips around the country. Napa, they've been all over, and cruises and everything on the dime from Fulton County. She's a disgraceful conduct right there. If you're going to go after the former president, you better have your ducks in a row. You better be squared away. This is a clown outfit completely, and that's why that case goes away. I think all the other cases are going to go away also. But it's shameful that this was a political witch hunt in New York City. And let's talk about De Niro. Let's wrap this up with De Niro and how he embarrassed himself. He's an actor, not a politician. He goes in there and starts calling Trump a clown. He starts calling him a dictator, that we're going to lose our democracy. It's going to disappear. I mean, who is this guy to come across? He was very successful. It wasn't for the pandemic. He would have crushed Biden in 2020. The pandemic threw him a curveball. The economy went to shit. Everything was a problem. And he kind of didn't do things they should have done on that part. But to say all these things about him, let people vote, let them decide. He's a politician, and he's acting like one. And he was used by the Biden administration. Is Biden any better? No, I don't think so. And people were chanting, "You're washed up, you're done." And then he went De Niro style. He became Raging Bull, using the F words and everything else. And I thought it didn't look good. It didn't look good. And I think a lot of people are going to look at his movies a lot differently now. At least I will.
Well, you can see actors don't want to work with him anymore. They're turning down $1 million roles not to be on his ticket. So that says something in itself.
Kevin Costner just dumped him. You saw that? Kevin Costner, they had him as a pity role, $30 million, and he just dumped him from his project. Says, we can't have a guy like this on it because people are going to protest and boycott all your projects going in there. And it's going to have a big influence on people buying also and say, listen, I really don't want to see someone like this. Sean Penn used to do the same thing. Other actors, Marlon Brando also became very leftist. It ruins the movies. People don't look at them the same. Stay reacting. Let actors be acting, just like athletes. Some of these athletes get a little too caught up, and people's like, oh, no, just do what you're supposed to do and let the politicians take care of that. You want to vote? That's great. But those kind of allegations were bad.
I think most people don't care if a celebrity has a political position or party and they talk about it. But when they add the lies and the propaganda to what they're saying, it's deeply offensive. People aren't stupid. We don't want to hear it. We lost respect for you. That's it.
And not just that, the Biden administration asked him, so he's a political ploy. And then he goes in front of the courthouse when the jury's about to deliberate, right? What are you doing? What are you trying to do? You're trying to impact the jury. Let the jury do their job. And unfortunately, I thought the jury really that case. If like I say, if this guy wasn't Donald Trump, but was Donald Smith or Donald Nobody, right? But they went after him because they have so much crime. You guys, Louis, being in New York City, a paper case 7 years ago, right? Manhattan DA is going after this guy for this. Well, they have violent criminals that need to go after, and they're wasting all the resource and tax money for this case. It's political. And a blue state, blue city going after the former president who's a Republican, who's now going to be the nominee. That's a problem. And we don't do that in this country. We're better than that. And that's what stuff of banana republics.
Banana Republic. That's it. These prosecutors in New York and Atlanta, they need to be in prison. Hopefully, within the next year or two, they will.
Well, I said that they're the ones who are going to end up losing their license. They're going to get loose their law license, and they're the ones because they lied under oath. They lied in their affidavits. They're the ones that should be. But remember, Georgia's kind of becoming like kind of a purple state now. It was bright red. It went blue, surprisingly, and maybe it'll learn its ways, and we'll see what happens in 2024.
Yeah, they're the most likely person they could have to win would probably be Hillary Clinton. Nobody wants to see her around, or RFK. I know you wrote a book about RFK, but he's more popular than Biden, and he's a Democrat. He's had 2 assassinated family members. They won't give him Secret Service protection, and they won't let him in the debates. And I know you wrote a book about him.
Yes, I did. Yeah, can you imagine that? What a rigged system. Even he called it that. But he even said on CNN that he said Biden is a bigger danger to this country's democracy than Trump will ever be. And because he is being taken over by the left, by the socialists, right? And that's a problem. I wrote an article. You've been writing a lot more articles and books and have been getting published a lot. That we're sandwiched between 2 socialist nations now. Trudeau's Canada, which has been socialist since 2015 with Canadians The Great Escape. And then look at Mexico now. Lopez Obrador, they just, in a country that's 90% Roman Catholic. Claudia Sheinbaum, first woman Jewish president of Mexico, but she's an ultra socialist. She was handpicked by this guy. She's the doctor. She has a doctor's degree in science, a little politics, but she has no real experience in this kind of realm, especially with the cartels. We're in bad shape. We've got ourselves. If Lopez Obrador on 60 Minutes said it a month ago, what he said was, if the U.S. wants us to do a better job on immigration, illegal immigration to the United States, and with the cartels, you got to pay us more to do so. Pretty much a shakedown that said the United States got to pay more for Mexico to do it. So if not, it's going to be. But shame on Biden for not finishing the wall. Shame on him for not going up the tunnels, and shame for deportation and sanctuary cities. That's the biggest threat. And unfortunately, and I know you were in New York City during 9/11, or you remember what happened to a lot of people there. I see another major attack of that happening. That small one, major attack. The border has been open for too long, with too many people from Middle East, from Africa, from China, from not just Latin America, have come in illegally, and they just said, you know what? No, open borders like that, it's a disaster. I have a fence around my house. We need a fence. And fence, the tunnels, tunnel system, they're saying is almost as elaborate as Gaza. This is what we have underneath. People don't realize how elaborate the tunnels are underneath our country to get the drugs in. But it's not just drugs. The wrong people, the cartels now are involved in human trafficking. And you paid $10,000 to watch a documentary of a young man from China who got fed up with the CCP. He paid the cartels $10,000. They brought him in through Mexico. They took buses and they pushed him through Tijuana. That's a big business. We're in trouble. We're in big trouble.
In China, that used to be called a snake. It was $15,000. I don't know if you recall, back in the 90s, there was a boat that ran aground in Jamaica Bay, and all of these guys were jumping over the side, and 20 or 30 of them drowned in the water. And the guy who did that whole thing resided in the precinct that I used to work in, and I happened to become an expert in Asian organized crime and Asian gangs. And the FBI reached out to me and they asked me to go and work that case. And I did it when they took the case down. I took them right to the locations. I knew the area like the back of my hand, and all the arrests were made, and they did what we had to do. But that's known as the snake. It happens all the time. If you don't have the full 15,000, you could pay them 10,000, 5,000, 8,000, and then you come over to America and you work for these people. If you're a female, you're going to go into a whorehouse. If you're a male, you're going to work in the restaurants or do something else, and you're working for like $1.85 an hour until you pay back your debt. It's horrible.
It's horrible. And that's through China, and then we also have Latin America. We have the whole world wants to come. Yeah, exactly. It's the land of milk and honey for many, but we're like a ship. You can only take so much in, right? If not, it's all going to go down, and that's a problem. We have to be smart about who we let in, and we had a major pandemic, right, Bill? We had guys, and we don't know all the health crises coming in, all the health issues are coming in with that. No one's being checked, and it's not fair for those who come legally through the system, right? They waited their turns, they applied, they're going in, and these people are jumping the line, and that's not long. So we need the wall, we need the tunnels, we need deportations. We can't have sanctuary cities. I think Trump is going to address a lot of that stuff. Hats off Eagle Pass in Texas for them stopping Border Patrol, putting the fence up there themselves, right? And they themselves had stopped the illegal flow in Eagle Pass in Texas. Good for the Governor Abbott for doing that, stepping up and say, you know what, enough is enough. We have to protect our citizens.
It's amazing that Biden is letting all these illegals in the hope of, and he gave it was a couple 100,000 of amnesty a few days ago. Blanket amnesty, terrorists, illegals, the people that are online trying to come here legally are like, what the hell just happened? Crime wave all across the country, families being murdered. In New York, we had a case of a guy from, I think, Ecuador, 30-something-year-old guy. He does whatever he feels like to a 13-year-old girl, ties them up in the park, abuses her in the worst way. It came out this morning, filmed the episode. He went to a bodega in Queens, and they just saw him on the news. They waited for him to come back. And a bunch of guys from, Dominican Republics, they don't play that. And they jumped on him. And then one of the guys says, we spot him, we got him. And they beat him, ripped his shirt off to see the tattoo, held him for the police. They just had him on Fox News a minute. So you have these people that don't share our values, whether they be these hardcore religious fanatics, that this is a Judeo-Christian country, So you have these people coming in from the Middle East who do not share our values, claim they're coming here for a better life, yet they're in the streets, praying to Mecca and wanting to sound the bell or whatever, the Sharia horn five times a day in New York City. Are you kidding me?
Wow. If
you hear Catholic church bells, you might hear them on Easter or something, or once on a Sunday morning, very respectfully. Nobody wants to hear the minaret 5 times a day in a major city. I know I don't.
Separation of church and state, right? That's where country separation of church and state.
Exactly right.
You don't want to become like an Iran or another country where they get fanaticized and they all of a sudden the religion state, the Ayatollahs take over. No, we don't want that at all. And women don't get treated. Look at Afghanistan and the Taliban, how they treat their women. If they don't act right, they get executed. They beat them. They drop acid in their eyes. You look at the videos, how they get treated. It's just inhumane, and we're not that kind of country. You have to just learn it, but come here legally, not illegally. We all have has problems, you have to come legally in the United States. And that's the issue we're dealing with Biden. That's the biggest problem. It's the lack of law and order, the lack of respect for the law, the lack of protecting the border, the wars that don't stop, the problems in Israel. Then he's putting the pressure. They can't finish the job there, take care of Gaza. They want a peace accord. I mean, it's just one after another, after another, after another. Stumbling, bumbling Joe. He's like I said, when I wrote the book a year and a half ago, Joe Biden, after everything I saw a year and a half ago, I said he's one and done. He's awful. And now with all this other stuff going on, forget it. Forget it. Trump has his flaws. We all know he has his flaws, but he's a lot better than what we got right now. That's for sure.
Yep.
My son is he works for CBP, which is Customs and Border Patrol, and he told me that the worst people that are going to come in here and are here now are these people from Venezuela. They're at the number one top of the list. Another thing that we don't realize that many of these people that are coming here from China, from this place, from that place, they are military people that are highly trained. Okay, and that's a problem. The average person here in America, I don't think they're going to step up to the plate and do what they have to do to protect their homes. People, I'm a very pro-gun person. I don't think that everybody should have a gun, but people that haven't been arrested and have some skills and are trained should be able to protect their home and their family.
Yeah, absolutely. But we've talked about it. I wrote an article about that. Common sense things, and you were the other side of the fence. Things that you did, what you look for, and I think it's always good for us to touch base on that. A lot of people are scared of weapons. Some places they can't have weapons, they can't defend themselves, which is awful. But I wrote an article, and common sense things you should do is if people start like to still sleep at night with the windows open. I think doors unlocked. Just common sense, harden where you live. Lock the doors, close your windows, turn the lights on, keep the bushes low as you can. Even maybe even if you can't afford an alarm system, put signs that you do have one. Put it all over. Get a fake camera, right? Or put a sign that you have a big dog and maybe a big bowl, right, Bill? That would catch your attention. You saw like a big bowl in front right there with maybe a big chew, and you're like, man, I don't know if I want anything to do with this house.
Yeah, Louie, my background. I was active, pretty much professional burglar back in my day, and served quite a bit of time in prison. But one of the things I feared most of all was going to a house in the middle of the day, and it was one of you guys sleeping, like working the night shift, and you happen to be asleep, and accidentally breaking into a house where there was a sleeping, law enforcement person in there, or armed homeowner. So from the point of view of somebody who was on that side of the fence, I definitely didn't want to run into that, but I do support gun rights. I think nonviolent offenders, after a certain amount of time, should get them restored, because I would like to be able to own a gun, but I can't. I believe you should have a right to defend yourself. I believe that there should be people in all schools that are trained, including teachers that are willing to, and they're trained to defend the schools. I believe there should be AI. There's AI cameras now that can detect an armed person, like an active shooter. If they take the gun out before they go into the school, even before they break the glass or follow somebody in, usually the gun's in their hand. They have cameras now that can identify that he's carrying a gun or a pizza, and then the gun would automatically trigger the locking of the doors, lockdown of the school, and notifying the authorities. AI notifies the authorities before the guy ever gets to the front door.
Yeah.
So,
one of the problems with schools is schools were meant to be schools.
Yep.
And in order to keep these people out, you have to make them like prisons. Let me just say this. I study weakness. You could have the best school in the world. When the intent is what bothers me the most. Somebody who's a goal-oriented individual who wants to do damage is going to do damage. These kids have to go to school and they have to leave the school. So at 3:00 when the bell rings and these kids come out and they get into their school buses, that guy in the parking lot can light everybody up while they're getting in the buses. So there's no solution to this problem.
Yeah. What I wrote a book about sorry about this. Just add this: if you have at least police presence at the school, armed security or armed professionals, you can at least counter quickly. And the only thing you can do is minimize the damage as much as you can. Or like after 9/11, the pilots themselves were given the option if they want to be armed have a gun in the cockpit, since we were like a force multiplier, and the federal agents were used as force multipliers. We carry our weapons in. That way, at least the FAA, the air marshals did not have enough agents to be on the planes, so we will also be on it. So you know what? There's a lot of teachers who are prior military, law enforcement, or they are just gun enthusiasts that maybe get in a program like this and at least can fight to defend their students and themselves instead of being, like lame ducks just waiting to be executed.
So
those are different things we got to think about.
To this day, Ignacio, as a retired federal agent, we're gonna talk about TSA in a second here. But as a retired federal agent, are you currently still permitted to carry your gun in the passenger area? No? Okay. So when you were a federal agent, did they give you additional training that if you're going to carry it during a personal flight on board, that you have to have a certain type of ammunition that can't penetrate the fuselage?
Well, we always carried hollow point. But yeah, you take the training, you only use it when absolutely necessary, when you're calling in close range. But when they're trying to take the plane, now you only had, if it was taken over, only certain minutes, because they're not going to let it crash again to another building. They're going to shoot down. They're going to bring up the fighters up, the F-16s, and they're going to shoot down that plane. You have to make sure you can retake that plane, because they're not going to risk it crashing into another city or to the White House, the Pentagon, or anything else. So if it does happen, you have to act quickly and address the threat and neutralize that threat very fast, because they can't risk them taking over. But that's why I like the pilots are armed, because the pilots can defend themselves too, right? They don't want them taking over the plane and using their plane as a missile, which is what it was. It was used as a missile.
Yeah, so we're going to transition. I know Louie's had some issues with TSA. We're going to get into in my own story here, my own life story. Back in the 80s, it wasn't TSA. It was Wackenhut Security. It was Air Florida. It was FBI. So, Ignacio, you've heard the story. I was stopped under suspicion of skyjacking a plane to Cuba. I was detained. I was searched in front of the passengers. And you guys have to watch my shows to hear that whole story. But they said I fit the profile because my brother-in-law was a stocky Italian guy who had just dropped me off. I was flying alone, paying with cash during a week when there was 11 skyjackings by Cubans flying planes back to Cuba. And so I happened to fly, and here I am with blue eyes and freckles and a Brooklyn accent. And they accused me, and they got me to miss my flight and searched me and questioned me. So I know it could be a hassle. It's a thankless job, like any other job in law enforcement, probably. What happened, Louie? What's going on? Let me hear you. Let me hear your story.
First of all, I cannot stand the TSA. Okay, I am licensed and privileged by state of Alabama, and I also have an HR 218 card, which allows me to carry my firearm any place in the United States, including Puerto Rico. Okay, I follow their rules all the time, and every time I seem to fly, their rules change. Now, last week, 2 weeks ago, when I was going down to Vegas, I have a box. I had a bicycle cable around that box. Okay, so you're not going to be able to open it. You need a sawzall to get through that box. Okay, and I have my firearm in there. It's unloaded. The slide is open. I have a magazine that has it's loaded, and I had an extra magazine, of course. And there's something that we do. It's called having your firearm duty ready. Okay, what you do is you keep your magazine. You take your magazine, you slam it into your gun. You chamber a round, then you take that magazine out. And since you're losing a round from the magazine, you put that extra round in. So your gun is now duty ready. Okay. One time I went through with them, and the gun was open, and the TSA guy took my round because he says, it's a loose round. I says, it's in the styrofoam. And what he did was he busted my shoes to the point where he says, you want to miss your flight? They play this game because they got that power. Okay. He took the round. When I went on my trip and I came back, I got the police, I got the TSA, and I says, I want this gentleman arrested. They said, for what? For a grand larceny. He took the round. He does not have the authority to take the round. The police have to take the round. Okay. And I have to get a receipt for it. Okay, it's either evidentiary material or it's for safekeeping, and they almost died.
Mhm.
Now I got this guy. His name is Mr. Hunsinger. Every time I go there, him and I bang heads. I don't like him.
God.
He don't like me. And another time I went there 2 years ago, in my backpack, I had my keys, and on my keys, I have something called a Kubotan. I've been carrying a Kubotan for 30 years. Can I do damage with it as a weapon? Yes. I could do the same amount of damage with a pen. So the guy says to me, "You can't carry this." I says, "It's in my bag. I'm not.
You have one nearby you can show us, because I don't even know what a Kuberthon is.
I have to get up to show
What is it? The little handheld thing that goes on a keychain?
Yes.
I think
I mean,
I've
it
seen
can be used to do damage. I could do the same thing with a pen. Okay. All right. So now from my son, I know if they cannot identify what it is, they can't take it from me. So I asked the guy, "What is it?" "You can't have it." "What can I have?" "Well, you can't have it. It's my keychain. I've been carrying it for 20 years. He calls the supervisor. She says, "You can't have it." So what can I have? "It's my keychain." "Well, you can't. So listen, if you can't identify what it is, you can't take it from me. I know that to be the law. So you want to miss your plane? They play this game because I leave out of Montgomery, Alabama, and everything is a connecting flight. So now I have 2 knee replacements. I can't run. I don't walk very fast. And when I fly on a plane, I carry a cane because when I get up, I'm very stiff. So I had to give it to my daughter. She had to run out to the car, stick it in the car. And when she brought it back, she had to run out to the parking lot. When she brought it back, this guy now is going to put her through the entire searching process. So, all right, go to the metal detector again. He says, "No, we have to search her." "You have to search her. Why?" "Well, she just went out to the car." "How do we know?" I said, "You sent her out to the car." My mom had passed away earlier that morning. I was on an emergency flight to go to New York. The last thing I'm thinking of doing
is doing this.
Is having a problem. Okay, we're all in mourning. And I says, "You know what?" I said to my daughter, "Get in. You're not searching nobody. Now what are you going to do?" They didn't do nothing because they knew they were dead wrong. When I carried a cane, I hand them the cane. They look at it. They try to unscrew it. I says, "That's a bazooka. Come on, guy. Give me a break. My knees go off all the time." I tell them, "My knees are going to go off. Take me on the side, search me. I'm used to it. It's no big deal." I asked them if they're going to give me flowers after the search. And you know what? I really, to really break their shoes, I say, "Sir, do you have to search? Why can't she search me? I'd rather her search me than you." So, I give it back to them.
Yeah.
But they're a useless entity. They changed the rules. One of the worst thing, and I'm gonna rely on your expertise. When I go into the airport and I notify the airline that I have a firearm, they make me open my bag. They look at the firearm. I sign a statement that goes into the box saying that the gun is unloaded. Now that's what the airline requires. Okay, why do I have to do this out in the open in front of 200 people in the airport that now know I have a firearm, and I'm going to put this in my bag? Now, if somebody like myself, I watch everything. If there was somebody that was evil, they can look at my bag, because my bag, I put 2 handkerchiefs on it, one red, one blue, so I could find it when it comes down the carousel. You know what I mean?
And you got to check it in. So someone could steal it.
It goes in my bag. I lock my bag up. The case is locked. I put zip ties all over everything.
If they're dirty, they're gonna rip that off too. If it's a nice weapon,
it's
they get ripped off.
Well, how about somebody who's just standing behind me and goes, he gets to the carousel before me because I'm gimping along.
Oh, they might take it. Sure, they see it stands out.
How about this? I go into the airport and I tell them I have a gun, and they say, "Open it up." And I take out the gun and I load it and I start killing people. Why aren't you taking me into a private room where nobody sees this happening?
and take it off.
I don't mind being searched. I don't mind showing them anything. I want to comply. But when I moved from New York to Alabama, I had like 35 rifles that I was carrying to Kennedy Airport. I had all these boxes opened up. One time I went hunting and I put my gun. They're supposed to keep it in another place, and I pick it up in another part of the airport. They threw it on a carousel. It's a gun case. Anybody could have picked it up and ran with it.
Common sense, not too common sometimes, right, Louie? Right, Bill?
And if you make a complaint, they just cover it up.
Ignacio, what's the law on that? You're retired ATF.
Yeah.
If somebody's moving, can they mail their guns ahead of themselves, insured or whatever?
You can send it to an FFL, a federal firearms. I mean, there's different ways. I would the safe way to do it. I personally would drive it and just make sure, and just if you can, just drive it to that state you're going to. That's going to let you have it. Hopefully, a nice red state. If you can't do it, then I would just ship it from one FFL to another FFL over there, which is a federal firearms licensee. You have to pay a little bit, but secure. They take care of it, and that's one way of doing it.
You pay a lot of money. You're going to pay the FFL dealer in New York.
Yeah,
put it through his books, especially when you're doing like 30, 35 guns, and then from there it'll go to a new firearm dealer. In Alabama where I live. And then he's going to bang you over the head. So I'm paying like $75 per gun to ship all these down. It's
that's what I would drive it. I would drive it down.
I should have. Woulda, coulda.
That's what I do. I drive, and that just saves you the money. I don't like the whole TSA. I don't like any of that. And you know, it's here's another funny story. Since we're talking about not just TSA, but talk about the airline industry and going in, and we get to fill out forms. That's when I was still ATF. And I'm allowed to carry and going through. And sometimes these knuckleheads, when you're at the airline can be as worse because, different codes you use and words you use. And sometimes they don't understand. And suddenly they say, oh, you're with ATF? And it's really loud. And it's like, what do you announce a little more? Because now my cover, people are blowing and say, oh, that's a guy. I would be careful with. Kill him too. That's a guy. He's going to be. I say, can the ATF agent that's on the plane please come to the front so that you can talk to the pilot? Okay, great. So I wait a little bit. You wait, and it's like hopefully someone else goes.
You know what that reminded me of? That reminded me of anytime there's an issue where, like for example, my sisters they ripped me off for a lot of money, my inheritance. They were afraid of what would happen when I got out and all that. I forgive them for the record, but they stole about $800,000 from me. Right? Told my mentally ill mother I was dead. So at one point they were so afraid. One of my sisters, I called up to the facility, and the prison inspector, they investigate crimes within the prison and threats, that people extend outside the prison. They'll interview the inmate for the warden, and so they made an announcement. William Steele, report to the inspector's office. Now I'm looking at all these people wondering why I'm going up to the inspector's office.
Yeah, you're gonna get
but it was to be told, hey, your sister doesn't want to hear from you. She's afraid of you. But I'm like, well, gee, thanks for announcing it and not letting anybody know the real reason I was going up there.
Now you look like a rat.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, the airline employees, it's scary. Some of them don't have common sense. Some of the pilots are squared away, and some of them are, you're like, okay. I like the ones that were prior military that had the guns too, and they said, I also have one also. I would say, that's good. That's good. So going back full circle, I think the teachers who want to should be armed, get ready. Those who have the training and have classes to prepare yourself to do so, because you're right. We can't have, unfortunately, a police officer or someone trained professional all the time on these schools, but at least the teachers can do something. Because I hate to see it. You see the principals and them that are trying to shield their students and get executed and killed. And man, it's just heartbreaking to see that. And in Uvalde, Texas, I wrote the book about this, about mass shootings, how to stop it. And in Uvalde, Texas, that was unacceptable. Waiting, when you have active shooter training, you got one or two guys in, he's shooting already. You got to go in there. Kids are dying. How do they wait 80 minutes and just until it wasn't even their own SWAT team. BORTAC, you mentioned CBP, they had to come in from another city. They came all the way, and they're the ones who came in, and the parents are being tased. The parents are fighting because they're hearing the shots going off in the classroom. They know. You see the video. And they're getting sprayed because some parents have shotguns, and they were going to go in to save their children, but they were stopped by the police there. and for no reason and wasting time. It's shameful.
He said there's a documentary called 74 Minutes or something about the time it took him to go in.
I've seen a few of them already. There's a lot out there. And if you haven't seen the teacher that survived, the only teacher survived, who was shot laying there watching students get executed, he said he could hear the police outside and they did nothing. He said, I couldn't move. I couldn't save my kids. And these kids died and bled out.
Let me tell you, my daughter went to a private school here. It cost me $18,000 a year. It was a private college preparatory school in Alabama. I'm not going to mention the name, not to embarrass anybody. And one of the things I asked them is, in the event that we have a catastrophic condition taking place at the school, do you have a plan? And the answer was, oh, yeah, we have a plan. Okay. What is your plan? Well, we have a plan. Well, can you tell me a little bit about what the plan is? Because I see a lot of inadequacies here with your security and this. Well, we don't have security guys. I say, no. The guy who does security is the guy who cuts the lawn too. Okay. So they said, well, I can't tell you, because what happens if you're the guy that's coming into school? You could be one of those irate parents. I says, you're absolutely correct. You got a good point there. So, well, let me tell you something. Take a look at me. You see how ugly I am? See my bald head? If something happens in this school, I'm coming through with my red truck. Make no mistake about it. I got a red truck, and I'm coming in very highly armed. Okay?
Irate.
I'm going to take care of business. I'm going to take my daughter and as many kids as I can out. You know why? Because I have a reason for being here. I'm not going to depend on some 23-year-old cop who just got out of the academy, who can't make a life-threatening decision. Okay? This is my daughter. This is my niece, and that I'm going to do what I got to do. And I'm going to go through cops. Sorry.
And I feel horrible what happened to those parents in Uvalde. They were victimized twice. And you guys see those videos out there. They're crying. The mothers are fought. It was shotguns like you're trying to come through the windows and everything else. And they're being tackled. They're being handcuffed. And their kids are being executed. And the police are standing outside. That's the worst thing. You had the police there. They were there quick enough. And you know what happened? The guy had a rifle. They only had handguns. Yeah, it's not a fair fight. Oh, I'm sorry. But guess what? Get a guy with a shotgun. Start blasting in there, because those kids have nothing. And that's what they would get paid to do. You got to do something. It happened in Parkland also. And it just seems to be like a trend. Even with police presence, they don't want to go in there. And I get you had a handgun and Cruz had a rifle. But the teachers and the coaches are trying to tackle the guy, and they're getting killed. At least you can do something and render aid or do something. Don't be outside and tell the units stay outside. No, you got to go inside. That's active shooter training. You got to do it. It's a tough call. You got to be prepared mentally. But if you're not that kind of guy, maybe find another kind of job.
No, listen, I would never be afraid of it. I would not. I'm going right in, and I'm not leaving until I take out that threat. I'm sorry. That's who I am. That's what I am. And there's no two ways about it. Yeah. First of all, my opinion is the ground floors of an entire school, all of the windows on the ground floor need to be bulletproof.
Yeah.
Okay. And the doors need to be steel or bullet resistant or bulletproof per se. So if there's a problem, they could lock those kids in the school.
Yeah.
And, that's just a start. Yeah. But, one of the problems is in policing today, everybody is reactive. You have to be proactive. Why are we letting the crimes happen when we could prevent them? Reactive means they're letting the crimes happen. They're taking a report and they're giving it to some detective who can't do anything. He'll never solve those crimes because he's got a case folder that's 6 feet tall. In Montgomery, Alabama, it's running. We got shootings, 12 shootings in one weekend. You know why? Because the police are not proactive. The mayor here caters to the thugs.
That's awful. Okay,
they're so afraid of violating somebody's rights. I don't know if you heard of stop, question, and frisk.
Yeah, they stopped in New York, right? They can't frisk anymore.
Well, listen, I did it a million times.
Yeah,
we took a lot of guns and a lot of drugs off the street with stop, question. We have the rule of general inquiry. I look at you and you're standing around, and based on what you're doing, something's not right. I can go, hey, how you doing? What are you doing here, my friend? I'm going to be polite to you. Where are you from? I'm going to ask you for a reasonable reason for you doing what you're doing. And if you can't, I want to identify you now. Okay. And if based on there's levels of suspicion that I have to go through. And then I can frisk you, which is the outermost garments. I'm not putting my hand in your pocket. I'm frisking you basically for a hard object that can hurt me or hurt someone else.
Officer safety.
Yeah, safety or safety to somebody else. And if I find a gun, guess what? You're under arrest. If I find drugs, we got some explaining to do. But I'll take the drugs. Even if I don't effect a lawful arrest, the drugs are still off the street.
Yeah, for sure.
Because nobody's going to complain. He took my drugs.
And maybe he becomes an informant. So we'll see.
You don't know. I try to talk to everybody.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's a good one there. Okay, well, we'll hold off the charges, but let's start working. We can work this up.
You pull a car over, you didn't feel happy. Everybody's out of the car, hands are on you put your hand. Yeah. Now they have this thing called detaining. You're being detained where you can handcuff somebody, detain them. We weren't allowed to do that.
Oh.
When I went to the police academy, if you stop someone from leaving, you're stepping on their freedoms. It was known as an arrest. Now that the Supreme Court has found it to be, they can lawfully detain you. It's even better.
That's even easier.
Detaining everybody.
Yeah, no, detain for a little bit. It's investigative stop. In investigative court, you have to ask questions. You're being detained. Once we're satisfied, then you can go forward. If not, well, guess what? Now
because there are suspicious behaviors, and there are.
Oh yeah.
They say you can't profile, but even myself, the lifestyle I lived, and you guys being experienced in law enforcement, you know that there's patterns and behaviors and the look of certain people that tend to say they might be involved in this. Yes, you might not think an elderly grandmother's, packing a bunch of kilos or guns or something, but you can certainly tell the general thugs and street guys and what they're doing. So,
and especially what areas you're supposed to be in, what areas, when someone who doesn't fit in a certain area, right? And why are they here? What's going on? And all that stuff. That all plays into your experience.
We talk about AI being involved with everything. I just saw another application for it, where I think it was Philadelphia, where the guys running the dope holes kept moving locations within a certain strip in the hood somewhere, right? So what they did is they got a vantage point and they put the AI cameras, which were trained to monitor traffic in and out of every single doorway. What building got the most people stopping by cars or in and out of the doorway?
There we go.
And then so what it did, it creates a pattern after just a day, right? And it has a red line like ants, showing a red line of ants going to the same doorway for an entire day. You might have 500 people going to one doorway where everybody else is 5 people, 6 people. And so they know where the train of ants was. That's the new dope hole. And that's
a good way. That's a good use of AI. I like that.
It identifies exactly what doorway they're serving dope from.
Well, that's something good. I like that. That's something positive. But AI also, I think, it's negative. So
back in my day, okay, I knew every crack in the sidewalk. Bill knows the area that I worked in.
Yep.
And it was a primarily Hispanic, Black area. Pitt Street, that area. I'd see a kid pull up with jersey plates with his father's Cadillac, because it's his father's car that he brought over. And he gets out of the car, and we're watching him, and he's got a $10 bill in his hand or a $20 bill, and he's walking up and down the street. What is he doing?
Yeah.
He's looking at the cop. He's looking to buy drugs. So I'd go out, and they gave me the same story all the time. How you doing? Good. Police over here. You're in a bad area. What are you doing here? I'm waiting for a friend. Okay, that's good. What's his name? I don't know. Where's he live? I really don't know. All right, listen. I hear what you're saying. What's his phone number? Let's go over to the phone. We had phone booths. Let's give him a call. So this way, get him down here. So I can keep you safe and get you out of here. I don't know it. Okay.
Yeah.
You have ID? I take his ID, write it all down. That's your call? Yeah. All right. Got to have all the information. Okay. Then I give it back to him, and I slap him a smack in the face. I ring his bell. I said, you know what it was? That was the smack your father never gave you. So now I know who you are. I know what you're doing. In about 20 minutes, you're going to give somebody a $20 bill, and you're not going to see the drugs that you're here to buy. You're not going to see him. And then you're going to walk into my precinct, and then you're going to say you got robbed. You didn't get robbed. You got rolled because they know you don't belong here. Okay?
Yeah.
And I said, I'll get in your car and leave, because when you come back again, I have a record of this, and I lied. If you come back again, I'm going to lock you up, and I'm going to take your car.
Yeah.
That was the way we handled things, and it worked out very nicely.
Yeah, and hopefully they learn their lesson. You know what? Know to that. Get out of here and get your life in order. And that's not a place for you.
Louie, you're incredible. I know you're a long time retired, but you know in these days how that would go over.
Oh, forget I'd be in jail.
Unfortunately, you'd be on camera and you'd be the one in prison.
Yeah, they'll have you on Facebook Live. Yeah.
Fear equals compliance. The problem is people do not fear the police. They do not fear going to jail. They do not fear a judge. They don't fear anything. So, you have to kind of learn them.
Yeah,
okay?
No, I agree.
That's the way.
And it doesn't help either. New York City with Eric Adams, the way he's running things.
Old school New York City policing. In those days, I was fleeing through an alleyway from a cop. He jumps out of his police car. Whatever I was doing, I forget. I got a bad memory. But anyway, I'm running from this guy, and it was not a violent pursuit. I didn't do a violent crime. I think I was like jumped out of a stolen car or something, right? And he threw his, they're illegal now to carry the blackjack, the flat one. Yeah.
That's a slapper. That's a slapper.
Okay, he throws that at me, hits me right in the back with it. I stumble in a lot of pain, but I kept going. I got away. So I go back 4 or 5 hours later to the alleyway before it gets light out. I went back like 5 a.m. and I found that in the dark, and I had it.
That's your souvenir. I survived the slapper.
Yeah, the cops were a lot more brutal in those days. If God forbid, I know a guy that got pulled over after a short chase in a stolen car, and they beat him, broke 2 of his legs, broke his spine. He's in a wheelchair to this day. Threw him over the fence in Coney Island into like some, They let him get away with stealing the car, but they gave him the beating of his life and put him in a wheelchair for the rest of his life.
That's a little excessive. That's,
a little
excessive. We had rules. If you ran, you're getting hit. You hit a cop, you hurt a cop, you're going to the hospital. Very simple. If you shot it out with a cop, you're getting bedside arraignment.
Yeah.
Okay, we gave what was called wooden shampoos. I'd hit you with my nightstick. You got a wooden shampoo. We took you to the hospital, and you wore a turban, which we called the Brooklyn party hat. And when you appeared in front of the judge looked at you, and he saw you have a turban. You're remanded right to jail. He knew you were a problem. That's what the rules were. But
are nightsticks even legal anymore? Can't they break a skull? I mean,
they could break a skull. Then I had when you left the police academy, they gave you a nightstick that was made of like balsa wood. The first thing you did was you threw that in your fireplace. And next show, I will do a display of my battle regalia, if you like.
We can do that. Guys, we got to get ready to wrap this up.
That's a good one. This has been a good show.
Anything else you guys want to promote or give everybody like a minute each? We got to get it because we're trying to put book trailers up with these shows now.
Yeah, let's do that too. You can see my poster behind me, ATF Undercover. Of course, all my books exclusively on Amazon, 80 of them. And if you don't have a big reader, you can also look on Audible. ATF Undercover had a professional voice actor. Go to Audible for ATF Undercover and the most dangerous crime syndicates of our time, an 8-hour listen. And I'll also have one coming up hopefully next month on tyrants and killers. The worst tyrants and killers of the 21st century. So look forward for that too.
And there's some of his books on screen. Ignacio is also the new voice of an episode or 2 or 3 or who knows how many on History Channel's Gangland Chronicles
coming out. MS-13, Bloods and Crips. So we'll look forward to that coming out hopefully within the next month or so. That's also cool. And man, I've been doing a lot of shows with you guys, man. A lot of shows all around. So check them out. Go to YouTube, type in my name, go on Google, and you can see a lot of good stuff on here. Bill's all shows and other shows I've done. And please check out the books.
Anytime I look you up, Ignacio, especially lately, you and I come up together in every search, and you come up as the number one expert at ATF.
I appreciate that.
Well, don't look me up. I come up in all the porn sites. Very rare.
I hope we don't see you on the police brutality sites, Louie.
I was a porn star in the 70s.
There we go.
Louie, tell us what do you got coming up? I know you just came back from Vegas. We didn't get to a lot of that here. You went there for the Mob Summit, right?
I was invited. One of the people that the guy who ran is a gentleman by the name of Tommy Canali, who was an absolute gentleman to me, who brought me in. I was signing autographs. Unbelievable.
Awesome.
Yep.
The lady who took me there was Henry Hill's second wife, who I've befriended, who was helping me, and she's branded me, and there she is. What she has shown me is that people are really interested in organized crime, police work, and I tell the truth and nothing but the truth. Okay, and
give this guy a shout out. Who do you say this guy was?
Who's that guy?
That's Captain Kenny. He's a great guy. He does memorabilia. He appears at shows, and he's just a character that everybody seems to love. He's just a real nice guy.
Cool.
So we know the Mob Museum out there shows a lot of ancient mobsters that people are kind of sick of hearing about. So tell us a little bit about the Mob Museum.
We went there, and I was treated like gold. We didn't have to pay to get in because I was with Henry Hill's wife. And I met a lot of people there shaking hands. People saw me at the show. They got a lot of old time stuff, which is okay. It's all part of history. But my personal opinion, they have to up to date it. They had nothing about private sanitation, which I'd like to see change. Private sanitation was controlled by organized crime for more than 50 years. And we broke the back of it. We changed laws on it. We crushed 27 private carding companies, locked up 32 organized crime people and their associates to the rank of capo. And my team got no credit for it, which is another story.
All my fans have heard about you and said that you definitely belong in the Mob Museum. You're legendary in that case. Vic.
Listen, let me just say this. I'm going to be very honest. I don't want to blow my own horn. We were a team. We were all different spokes on a wheel. Okay, the undercover that did the case, he did the main undercover work. He did a fantastic job. We kept him alive. We had to keep the confidential informant's family and him alive. We drove them back and forth to work. The team did all the work. The undercover is the undercover. He got information. We had to take him to places. We wired him up. We did what we had to do. But the team is the actual people that filters this information and creates the case. And, we could have got hurt. I snuck into some wise guy meetings and we went to weddings and so on and so forth. And there was some danger for me, but it wasn't what the undercover went through. But, I was never afraid. That's never been my forte. I was more afraid of the drug people than the organized crime people because
Louie, you got this memorialized with a coin. Give a shout out to your artist here.
Oh, that's my man, Dan Frankel, real gentleman. He was actually my cinematographer for our documentary, Operation Wasteland, which you can see on it's on YouTube. You'll see the trailer. We're hoping to get that sold to a big station. Hint, 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 A&E, Netflix, somebody help us.
I could try to help you get a pitch to A&E.
Martin Scorsese.
Ignacio too.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get this out there because we're going to tell the real deal. What's sad is in my team, 5 or 6 of the people that didn't get promoted along with me in this case are now passed away.
Yeah, and you passed over for raises and promotions that you were promised. Giuliani has shown you his true colors.
He put the whammy on it, and other people within the police department put the whammy on it. And that's a whole nother story, which I will tell it another day, another way. I have a theory on why that all took place, but They killed my career. The NYPD killed my career. But we'll leave it at that.
We're gonna keep having you back. You got a new career now, and continue teaming up with
us.
us.
Yeah, this is fun.
Ignacio can definitely guide you in what he's doing. I'll guide you in what I'm doing, and we'll definitely keep having you.
It's all about helping each other. We only get better when we share.
Exactly.
That's true.
And you know what, guys, and I can't say this enough, and I've said it to Ignacio probably so many times he's tired of hearing it. I get choked up because I like to think I have a decent heart. And with my background of being in prison so long, I thought the whole world hated me. For me to have guys of your caliber, as guests and co-hosts of my show, who am I? I did time. You put people like me in prison. So I'm very, very grateful that you guys trust me to tell your stories. And
let me just say this. I'm going to tell you this, man to man, straight up. I don't care what you did yesterday. What I care about is today, how you treat me today and how you're going to treat me in the future. We all have a past. I love you to death. I'd take a bullet for you. That's just the way I am. I don't care what you did. Don't care what I did either. We all start fresh. We all make mistakes. We're all human beings.
Okay, let me wrap this up. Thank you for that sentiment. Louie and I are doing a segment also called Mafia Mondays every Monday. Louie Ballestieri, we call him Louie B, Mafia Detective. This is our segment. My show, Inmate to Roommate, is in season 2 on A&E Network. You guys have known me from season 2. You see me, Bill. This is the famous sign from there. I now sell autographed copies of this. Contact me if you want autographed copies. The book that was shown on that show is my first book out, covered by Nancy Grace on her podcast. I'm selling, I have available autographed copies of that as well, and photographs. And I never thought these rules would show. You guys saw the show. These were in season 1, episode 1. That's the actual rule board. It's a few feet away from me right now. And so things are going well. I'm in a movie called Silent Partners. Thank you, Ciro DiPaggio. He made Mob King. Silent Partners is going to be streaming in a few weeks. Then I'm going back to Florida to film another movie. It's a prison comedy movie. I'll say the name here. It's called Suitcasing. It's actually about it's a comedy about how they smuggle contraband into prisons. So you can imagine what suitcasing means. Okay.
All right.
You guys were in law enforcement. You know what that's all about.
All righty, Bill. Interesting.
You made a comedy about that. I haven't seen the whole script yet. But guys, thank you so much for joining. God bless. Everybody stay safe. It's all about.
As we say in Italian, sta the bone. Stay good.
Stay good. All right.
All right. Bye.